My name is Grant Browning, and I'm the founder of one of Toronto's largest Caribbean media groups. With over 20 years of branding and marketing, you can guarantee that I've met some pretty amazing people. My biggest pet peeve is hearing people refer to successful entrepreneurs as overnight successes. But the truth is, there are no overnight successes, just entrepreneurs. Real entrepreneurs with big dreams and a desire to make a difference. They're willing to overcome all the odds just for a chance to taste success. That's exactly what this show is about. Business, success, strategies, the dreams, the struggles, and the victories. We're here to pack a hard punch and knock our dreams into reality by bringing you real stories and experiences right here on The Gloves Are Off. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of The Gloves Are Off, the show on business and success. I'm Grant Browning, CEO and founder of Carib 101 Media Group, and today I'm really excited because I have a close and personal friend of mine here. He is an expert at relationships. He has taught me a thing or two about relationships in business. So guess what we are going to be talking about today? Relationships, building relationships in business, the importance of it, and also maintaining those relationships. Jerrold is from Toronto. He is the Chief Representative Officer for Jamaica National Bank. He has been doing it for 5.5 years. And he is amazing at what he has done, even just with the office itself, the Toronto office. He's looking at me like, don't say anything that's not supposed to be said. So, so Jerrold, thank you.
The gloves to be off, right?
Well, the gloves are off. The gloves are. I don't need a smack in the head though, so it's all good. So thank you so much for coming, guys. I hope that you stay through the whole episode. We are going to cover a lot of stuff,
And we're going to have a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, this is going to be an interesting show. So, Jerrold, for the people, for our viewers, why don't you give a little bit of history of who you are and where you came from?
Okay. Born in Vancouver, British Columbia, many years ago.
Okay. Many years ago.
Yeah, and I had the fortune of getting to grow up in, 3 different countries. And so Canada, Jamaica, and the United States.
Okay.
And so, I mean, along that journey, going to school in California, learning that kind of West Coast lifestyle.
West Coast U.S. lifestyle.
So it's been very interesting, but you know, building relationships all along the way, and I think it's part of my parents' fault. Mm-hmm. My middle name is Jonathan.
Jerrold Jonathan Johnson.
Yeah.
Triple J.
Triple J. And one of the meanings behind Jonathan is friend. So if you talk about, because it came out of the Hebrew, you know, Jonathan that was in the Bible, and how he was a friend to David. Mm-hmm. And so I guess your name really follows you around. And so that the other part, Jerrold, means he that rules with a spear.
And that would sum Jerrold up too. So,
right, so a nice little balance there. But you know, going to school in California, I did marketing and business, and I just really, because I wanted to. I think it was when I was in high school. I took a speech class, and then that's when I learned I wanted to do sales and marketing. Because I remember we had these chocolate bars to sell, and I got up in front of the class, and I just started. I mean, I sold out all my chocolate bars, and I sold what I didn't have, right? And because I really hadn't planned to go to university or anything like that. Like, that just wasn't what I wanted. And so I was playing football and did well, and that, you know, started getting things for scholarships to go all different places, and then I started to look at it, and so I said, you know what, I want to do marketing, and that taught me a lot, especially about relationships. So I think that was where it started to form for me, And, you know, I was the guy that always had a lot of friends.
Again, relationships.
And people would know, well, you don't stay in one place long enough. You kind of move around, and you'll talk to us for a little while, and then you'll go over here, and then all the people that no one likes to talk to, you're over there, and you're having a great time over there, and then we want to come over there, and you know, it just, that's how it started, and it has grown from there.
So I know. Okay, so two things. Number one, I was giggling when you were talking about a while ago because you know they're actually they're measuring time now as in pre-internet and post-internet.
All right, so what are you trying to say?
No, because I was listening to a podcast this morning and they were talking about that, right? And they're like, you know, I used to have to actually go and call people and I had to do this, and this was before pre-internet, right? And because when you think about it, the internet has been around for 20 years.
Yeah, I remember my first interactions with the internet.
Yeah, AOL, or what was the other one? There was another one that was really
AOL.
Popular.
Yeah, because AOL it was AOL that would mail the stuff out.
Yes.
Dial out.
Yes.
And they would mail out those.
Remember that annoying sound? That and then somebody would pick up the phone and you're right in the middle of downloading something. What'd you do that for?
Exactly. Yeah. But it would. I remember those experiences with the internet, and I just am in shock.
Yeah.
About where things have come
and where they're going.
So
my second question is this: you have an interesting history. That it doesn't always have to do with relationships, though, and a lot of people don't know this. But you also were in sports.
Yes. I played football.
Not just any football.
Yeah, I was drafted in '93 by the Toronto Argonauts.
Okay.
So I played in university in California and got drafted and came up here played on and off for a season with the Argonauts. And so that was, again, some people say, well, it's not building relationships, but it is. And that's probably another thing that galvanized me with relationships, because you form a brotherhood when you play sports. And you get to learn that when you're dealing with people, you're going to grit against each other. Mm-hmm. You're going to have disagreements, but you got to find a way to work together. So there's a balance that has to be maintained. And I think growing up and being in sports, and I guess you know how people talk about jocks and say, yeah, they relate everything to sports, everything to football, and right? Well, yeah, I could do that. But it is applications for life. And I remember one of my coaches when we were doing the running lines back and forth, and so you'd get all the way to the end of the field, and you'd have to touch the line before you could run back, and he can't see you.
So it was an integrity thing.
So it was an integrity thing. And one of the things he'd always say, if you cheat here, you cheat on your wife.
Oh.
Right? And just things like that apply to life. And so how are you going to act when nobody's watching? Mm-hmm. And those things start to ingrain in you along the way. But playing sports, I think, was a very, very important piece of my life that helped form who I am. And some of those relationships carry on. Like I remember telling you about, I hadn't seen pinball in, well, it was over 20 years. And we were together. We both were presenting at an award show. And he had been on stage before me and was down and taking pictures and stuff. And I presented my award, and then now I came downstairs, and all of a sudden we saw each other. Mm-hmm. And we hadn't seen each other like 20 years. And the commotion that happened between the two of us, people would start gathering, like, wow, who's this? What's going on here?
the brotherhood kicked in.
But the brotherhood kicked in. And so, I mean, it's like going to war. When you go to war with someone, mm-hmm. there's a bond, a relationship that forms, and it's very important, and it translates into business. So it's how I think people need to start to look and think about, how do relationships influence business? Because it does. I mean, without relationships, there is no business.
Agreed.
Right?
Agreed.
Because any transaction, there has to be trust. Right? So you have to have a willing buyer and you have to have a willing seller. But if there's no trust, that transaction can't happen. Because if I don't trust that you're going to fulfill what you said, or the product that you have does what you said, then I'm not going to exchange my money to buy your product.
It's true.
So nothing can happen without building some form of a relationship. And the quicker you can form bonds and relationships with people, it's going to speak to how successful you can be as a business.
Now, of course, before we go to break, we want to make sure that we clarify something too, though, and we're going to get into it after the break. But creating those relationships need to have good intentions behind them too, right?
Absolutely.
Don't just go create relationships because you think you're going to get something out of it.
Yeah,
before you get into that,
that's a big one.
Before you go into it, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
This holiday season, be sure to pick up your copy of the Toronto Caribbean newspaper and check out all the specials from local businesses right here in our community. Help build a bigger, better, and stronger community with your support. Happy holidays from the Toronto Caribbean newspaper. Available at your favorite Caribbean location or online at torontocaribbean.com.
And we're back. If you just tuned in, I have a very good friend of mine, Jerrold Johnson, who is the Chief Representative Officer for Jamaica National Bank. And they need to rename you to like Chief Heart Officer or something like that. Jerrold is a specialist in building and maintaining relationships in business. And before we went to break, we were just talking about the importance of building. We were actually just building into this, the importance of building relationships. And one of the things that we were talking about was the importance of these relationships, but also it's important to create genuine relationships in business.
And intention. And you just can't be giving to get.
Yes.
And that I think is something that a lot of people do. And so it doesn't come across as genuine, because if people don't feel that you're genuine, and we talk about this when you always talk about social media and stuff like that, that what drives it is the authenticity.
Yes.
So I would say I try and keep a genuine care and love for people. Like, I mean, I enjoy people. And so all I know is based on principles. So the principle is, if you do something good for someone, at some point, it doesn't have to be them, something good's going to happen to you.
The pay it forward kind of thing.
Yeah, the same kind of pay it forward. But the reason why I'm being good to you is not because I want you to do something for me. But I know that if I keep putting good out there,
you're going to get good back.
You're going to get good
But
back.
wouldn't that stem down to also the being of the person too, and who you are inside? Because I mean, let's put someone who is maybe angry or just not necessarily a genuine person. they may not. I thought someone was going to break in there. Vulners. Anyways, they may not be able to do that because they're not genuine inside.
Yeah, and because it's a lot of this has to do. It comes back to how you feel about yourself and who you are.
Agreed.
And if you secure enough just to take people just as they are, because we all are not perfect.
Agreed.
Like, we aren't, and so, but I can't accept you if I can't accept me.
Wow.
So if I'm okay with me, then however you are, I can be okay with you.
Mm-hmm.
And not judging people, because I think just as human beings, we are judgmental by right. So you see someone, you immediately get a picture of what this person is, who they are, and because you're wearing jeans and you don't have a belt and it's sagging down, well, then you must be this type of person. So I presuppose
Based on an appearance.
Right, based on appearance and also based on your experiences or your presuppositions. But when we just say, okay, take you for face value, my interactions with you are what's going to determine how I perceive you, versus the way you look, the way you smell, any of those other factors. And so but again, if you're not okay with you, it's going to be very difficult to do. Agreed.
And it's interesting because Jerrold being what he's good at, when I first met Jerrold, we had, who is now a mutual friend of ours, we had someone that he's like, you got to meet this guy. And I had met this person a few times prior, and based on appearance and how he handled himself. Now, keep in mind, the position that he was in, he would get approached by many people all the time. So he would be in the same position as like, what do you want? Right? So the demeanor of the person kind of gave me an impression. And Jerrold was like, no, you just got to sit down and meet this person and sit down. And today he's a good friend because of it.
Because of it, yeah. And so it's like all of the other principle that I think that helps with the whole relationship building thing is understanding that your experiences help get you to the next experience and get you through. So the things that I learned today are somehow going to help me tomorrow.
I want to go in left field here quickly. The way you're I know this already, but I'm going to set them up. The way you're talking is very wise. This isn't everyday street language, so obviously to be able to think the way you think, you're doing something different.
Yeah,
I'm setting this up here.
You're setting this up. Well, yeah, like, I mean, I read, I listen.
Jordan's laughing.
but like, okay,
so let me ask you this:
personal development.
What is the importance of personal development?
It's like air.
Okay. Now, I know
You have
that.
to
You know
breathe
that.
it.
And a lot of our listeners may or may not know that. But
Yeah, but it, like,
once in a while or all the time?
all the time, you never see going to school and then going to university. You're just like happy to be done with it.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth of the matter is, that is just the beginning, and all it has done is it's helped set you up, and you should be in a mindset that I don't know nothing.
I had one of my mentors, Casey, that I had. I remember we would go to seminars every week.
Yeah.
And he would literally stand up there and he would say, you guys are constantly fighting the shit that's out there.
Yeah.
I get you for one day a week and I have to first undo all that.
all of that.
I got to battle that and then try and reprogram you with the positives. So the importance of it every day is just to filter out the crap that you deal with every day.
And for me, I'll say where it started in one sense. Well, I grew up in the church, and so there was a different level of personal development that I would say that I went through. But when I started working at JN, one of the first things that they did, they sent me to a seminar, a sales training, and it was with Alvin Day.
Yes.
And so Alvin has since become a very good friend and mentor. But one of the things that just blew me out of the water, and because I didn't know, I'd never thought of it, but it was like, how much do you invest in you? And he asked that question. I'm like, well, what are you talking about? Like, that didn't make any sense to me. And so he says, he was talking about, you know, he had these books, these things. Do you read? Do you listen to tapes? Well, no, I didn't. Like, I mean, I hate to say it, but I feel like through university and high school, I used the same books for book reports. It just, reading outside of a textbook, it just didn't happen.
Yeah. Because it's something that you were not necessarily genuinely interested in and passionate about.
Yeah. And so when I learned about that, I got, I'd say, on fire about trying to develop. I mean, you just start to learn more and more and more and more, and you don't know exactly what it's going to do to contribute to, you know, as I talked about, building on top of each other, but you just begin to gather information, gather knowledge, and realize. And I think for me, the other thing that it did, because my siblings would say that there was a time where Jerrold felt he was a legend in his own mind. And they used to tease me a lot about that, and cut me back down to size. But the more that I learn, the more that I understand that I don't know.
And then you start developing that thirst for knowledge. Now, Here's the thing. Right now, the big thing that you hear everybody's a guru in this right now, is Bitcoin. And you're hearing about investing in Bitcoin and investing in this and investing in real estate. All that stuff can always fluctuate. There's a risk and there's never guarantees. The number one thing that is always guaranteed on investment and will never lose value, you. Invest in you.
Yeah,
invest
absolutely.
in personal development. And as you can see, we kind of went in left field, but it was genuine, like a good thing to go here, because it's what made the foundation to what you believe in too, right?
Yeah, and it's true. And so when you even think about it, you are the most important asset that you have.
Okay.
And actually, that was one of the things that I learned when I got cut from the Argonauts. Well, actually, the process of getting drafted, going through with my agents and the contracts, I learned very quickly, I am a commodity. Right?
Harsh lesson.
Yeah, because I remember my agent said, okay, well, Jerrold, you can sit on the phone if you want. You can't say anything. But if you want to learn, you can sit on the phone and listen in. And then they prepared me and they said, okay, here's how it's going to go. Because you're a commodity. You have a skill. You're trying to sell your skill. So they're going to cut down and say as many bad things to help reduce the value that they have to pay.
Ouch.
Yes. And so if you can stomach listening to that, then you can be on the phone. And I said, well, sure. And so, but it was that helped tweak something in my mind to understand that I can help build me, right? So the perceptions of who I am, the skills that I have, if I can put more things in my arsenal, then I can become more valuable in other ways to other people. And we get paid for the value we create. So you want more money, create more value.
And that's the thing too, regardless of the company that you might own or the job that you might have, you could lose that tomorrow, but you will still have that knowledge that you gained to go out and get something else or do something better. And with that, we're going to take a quick break and be right back.
Discover the incredible India.
And we're back. I want to give a shout out to Jordan, who is doing an awesome job here.
He really
He's
is.
our engineer. And if you are just tuning in, you're tuned in to The Gloves Are Off with myself, Grant Browning, and we have special guest Jerrold Johnson, who is the Chief Representative Officer for Jamaica National Bank. Before we went to break, we were just talking about the importance of personal development and how it created the foundation of Jerrold being able to first off understand people, build relationships. Jerrold, I want to ask you a question because both of us, I know personally, because Jerrold is a really good friend, we're fiends when it comes to personal development. And we were literally having this conversation, or I was having this conversation with a couple other people before you had walked in, and I said, people don't actually understand, because the typical thing you hear from people is, I don't have time.
Yeah.
Right? And I've learned to find and make time. Anybody who's successful says you could always do more, and you always find a way.
Yeah.
I'm going to start with my day first, and then we'll go to you, because Jerrold's a little bit more than me sometimes. So one thing I wanted to definitely shoot out to anybody who uses that excuse about they don't have time. Here's a classic one. You can make time or you can make excuses, but you can't make both. So I start my day out. So Jordan's laughing. I'm on a treadmill.
Yeah.
And I need to focus on something. Otherwise, I can't do that 45 minutes on the treadmill. I watch. I watch something that is personal development. I learn that way. Then I go and shower. He's laughing because I'm like rhyming his day off. I have a Bluetooth speaker.
Yeah.
I'm listening to a podcast. I get into the car. Now, depending on my mood, sometimes it'll either be music, have to charge myself before I get to the office, or I'll listen to something. Continue listening to what I'm listening to. And then at nighttime, well, I'm going to take Jerrold's thunder away. So I'm going to let Jerrold tell his story now, okay?
Yeah, well, often I have what they call as a pillow speaker. And so because your subconscious never sleeps, right? So I'm usually listening to something or playing something all throughout the night, and taking it in. So then when I get up, I'll have my devotions. I'll start playing something else while I'm getting ready, and in the mornings I'll drop my daughter to school. I walk her to school. And then I'll walk for a little while. And again, I'm listening to my personal development. I'll get in the car, and I'm listening to something again. And depending on the mood as well. But what I've started to do is to try and be in tune with what gets me up and what gets me down. And so when I start to have an understanding of that, if I feel myself slipping in a mood, well, I'll know what to do. I'll know what to either play as far as music, or what I will play as motivation or inspiration.
Well, it's hacks, right? It's biohacking, right?
Right.
You mentioned a pillow speaker. Now I know, because Jerrold gifted me. Once he found out that I was a fiend, he gifted me a pillow speaker. But to the person that's watching or listening on the podcast, a pillow speaker?
A pillow speaker. Well, because it has to do with sound waves, right? So how sound waves work. You can actually even use your headphones and turn it. And when you put a pillow over it, you can't hear, and you're not hearing anything. But as soon as you put your ear on it, it's just the way that it's vibrations, right? And that's how sounds travels. And so you can pick up quite a bit. So anyway, but they have these special design speakers that are about this big, and they got little holes in it on both sides, and all I know is it works, and it was like $2 on Amazon.
We're going to start selling them on the website, so go to mytcntv.com. We're going to surge of people calling, how do I get this?
Yeah, but again, we talk about personal development, but the importance of flooding yourself with positivity, flooding yourself with things that are it's going to help enhance how you think. The one thing that you have control over is how you think. Yeah. Like, you have control over you. And so sometimes we don't want to accept that, because we don't want to take responsibility for our actions.
What happens in
what
our
happens. And it's just a fact, because sometimes it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to realize that I am where I am right now, and I'm having the challenges that I'm having right now because of what I've done.
Well,
or how I've thought.
I put a post last night. We were just talking about this. Things don't happen to you; they happen because of you. And when we start taking responsibility for everything that happens in our life, that's when you start gaining control of your life.
And for me, what hit that out? I mean, you guys, you can just go to, well, you're on YouTube. When we are done,
yes,
you can go to YouTube and just put "No Excuses" Brian Tracy. He wrote this book, No Excuses, and I remember the first time I listened to that, and I bought the book after to read. It was just like I got a punch in the gut, because it was saying you really have no excuse. It's not big decisions; it's those little decisions you make every day. And that build on each other. The habits that you have, or the habits you've created, give you what you're getting. And so, it's just those little simple tweaks. And back to, we talked about the personal development, investing in the personal development. Like, one of the things he talks about in that book, and from a business standpoint, use this on your HR. You should invest 3 to 6%. I think it's 3%. Of what the income you want on personal development. So if you want your business to be able to do something.
Now, is that for you or for your team?
Well, it works both ways.
Okay.
It works both ways. So if you look at kind of benchmarking, what do you invest in training your staff, and training your team?
Me alone?
No, I'm not.
I thought you were asking me because I'm like, you know question. That answer.
That's for you that are listening. And then I would ask the question, how much? So if it is that you're saying you want to make $10,000 a month, or $10,000 a year, we'll use a simple number, or $100,000. Well, then you should be investing, $300 or $3,000 a year into your own personal development. That could be seminars, that could be workshops, that could be conferences, that could be just all of those things. And there's a correlation whether you want to believe it or not. And it's like, when you stop, and I've seen people start doing personal development
and they
get to a level, and then they stop and they regress. So it's something continuous that you have to do. So reading, one of the things that I have learned from one of my mentors and our group CEO, Earl Jarrett, like, this man is a voracious reader. Like, and I don't know where he finds the time to do it. And it's like every conversation we have, he'll drop something from a book he's reading. But
it's an actual stat that every millionaire that is out there, multi-millionaire, reads at least 60 books a year.
And what was the stat for CEOs?
Same thing.
Yeah.
And like wealthy CEOs and
it's just incredible, and because it gives an understanding, and he's reading in various things. Like, he's not just reading about the financial sector. He's not reading just books on that. It's just like philosophy, sociology. We were talking about trends the other day, and migration trends, and he's just able to speak on so many different subjects.
It's wisdom,
and it adds to wisdom and all of that. And so, I mean, those things, again, you just, and I didn't used to read.
And if you're truly like willing to learn, like the old saying, when a student is ready, the teacher appears.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you start developing that thirst, and it's not always like you want to find out more. Like, you just want to constantly learn. And it's like you said, it's not just about, so for example, with Mr. J, he's in the financial sector. It wasn't just about finances. It was about people. It was about, business in general, all these different things.
Yeah.
Which, let's tie it in now, how you started with JN.
Yeah, how I started with JN.
We gotta leave a hook because we got almost a minute.
Okay.
We gotta leave people thirsty for more.
Because I was in Canada and moved back to Jamaica, and was looking for an institution where, because I was doing financial advisory services, but I didn't want to just sell. I wanted to be able to build relationships and advise people. And when I looked at JN, it was one of the organizations that had everything in it. And so once I got in, I found the reason why I chose JN was for certain people, and I wanted to be able to get certain experiences from the leadership.
Gotcha.
And one of the people, Ken Sterling, he said to me, Jerrold, your first year, don't worry about your target. Just go out and build relationships within the organization and the group of companies and get to know people. Don't worry about targets, just build relationships, right? And it didn't make any sense to me. But I followed the instructions. And I built relationships across the branch network, across the group of companies. And what started to happen is my targets the next year, most of my business were referrals. Because you build relationships, people know you're out there, and so they think of you. And I was like, very interesting. But that was what led me right around 2008, 2009 during the global financial crisis. JN formed an advisory team to say, okay, how are we going to handle this with our clients across our various businesses? So I got to sit on that committee, and that's how I met Mr. Jerrold. And so we were doing seminars and stuff together, and that's how he got to know me. And so fast forward 12 years, here I am today.
And there's more to it. We're going to be right back. We're going to take a quick break. Tongue twister. We'll be right back.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity and our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
And we are back with the final segment of The Gloves Are Off. I have with me a close and personal friend, a mentor, Jerrold Johnson. I actually call Jerrold when it comes to relationship issues because he is so good at it that sometimes I need to bounce ideas off of him and confirm my gut feelings sometimes. So just before we left for break, we also just touched on how you came into the JN world, into Jamaica National Bank. He's the chief representative officer for Jamaica National. And how did you get to Canada?
So how I got to Canada is I was working in one of the JN companies, JN fund managers. And you know what, it was just parts of life. I was looking to make some changes and so forth. And I got a call from Mr. Jerrold, who now we built a relationship, and so he had seen who I was and how I operate, and he had called and he said, I hear you're leaving. Is that true? And I said, well, yes. And he said, well, do you want to leave? And so we just had a conversation, and he just explained some things and exposed some things and said, well, Jerrold, I need some help. Would you consider, coming to Canada for a little bit? And, I thought about it, and what really drove it was also a relationship. Mm-hmm. And, when you talk to people at Jamaica National, within the group, you keep hearing the same story. And because of who Earl Jarrett is as a person and as a leader and as a mentor, you want to, you buy into the vision and you want to serve. And so it was an easy decision. So in 5 minutes, I made that decision, called my wife and called them back right away. And a couple days later, here I am.
Here you are, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how we came into the picture. I really got to say, I met Jerrold. It was, you knew my wife first?
Yes.
And I met Jerrold. We use the term fresh off the boat, but you were fresh in Canada.
Yes.
And I'm getting a smack. Jerrold was fresh in Canada. We met at Scene TV. They were doing the launch. Right. I forget the name of the restaurant. Jerrold sat in front of me, and we both didn't know anybody in the room, which was really funny. And Jerrold started talking to me.
It was Harlem Restaurant.
Harlem Restaurant, that's what it was. And the way the tables were positioned, Jerrold was actually in front of me while I was trying to eat. And being in a position sometimes, and I'm sure you've been like that too, sometimes is like, you're like, what do you want from me, sort of thing, right? I had no clue who Jerrold was, and I'm just kind of like, okay, this guy's being really nice, right? But it's amazing because Jerrold really knows how to finesse that relationship, and what came out from it after, because of him being genuine and transparent, was a really close friendship and relationship because of it. And because of that, I'm internally grateful because of it too. It's just, it's phenomenal. So, okay, so to the person that's building a business, number one thing is relationships. Maybe they're a little abrasive.
Yeah, but that's good too.
That's what I'm getting at, right? Because, Jerrold knows me. I'm very cutthroat when it comes to a lot of things. I make very instant decisions and move on. And I've learned today that a lot of the times if I come to that point when it comes to people, I call Jerrold first. And my wife. But Jerrold more, because you don't listen to your wife all the time. Come on. But no, Jerrold. And I will bounce off usually, Jerrold, you got a second. As soon as I say that, he knows that something's up. And I'll be like, okay, this is what's going on. This is how I'm feeling. This is my choices I'm making. What do you think? And Jerrold will always weigh out the pros and cons. And, he's good at what he does.
Yeah, but what I'd say to people in business, know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Know who your organization. So if you're working within an organization, understand the culture of your organization and who they are, and you have to be comfortable with that. You really have to be comfortable with that, because then it makes it a lot easier. Because when your company is going on, what's supposed to happen is, if you're leading that company, when your staff speaks, they're speaking on your behalf. So you've got to build that relationship so that they understand who you are, where you're going. Do they buy into your vision? So it's just like with Jamaica National. We buy into Earl Jarrett's vision.
Yes.
And so everything we do, anybody watch the series on Netflix, Crown?
No.
I had a friend who said, you got to watch this. And it's talking about Queen Elizabeth and the history. But one of the most important things that I pulled from that is all the decisions that are made are to protect the crown.
Mm-hmm.
It has nothing to do with really anything else. So everything is done to protect the crown, and the crown is that vision. That's that image. And so we all have to find out what that is in our business. So what is it that we want to portray, advance, protect? And the decisions that we make have to do with that. And so how you build the relationships are going to be very important. So I mean, it's okay. Some people are abrasive, but you've got to embrace who you are. So how is that going to affect my business?
So tying in everything that we spoke about, and that's where I was getting at, was the abrasive personality, or the person that's maybe is inexperienced. We talked about one main thing that's the key ingredient to building your business, which is personal development.
Personal development, yeah. Your personal and professional development is key. It's just like in business, we say cash flow is king. And it's true, because you need cash to be able to, flowing through your business, to be able to maintain. But personal development is also king, in that if you don't have that personal and professional development, if your skills aren't growing, if you stop growing, you're rolling back. And so if you want to advance your business, to get the innovation that's needed, you're going to have to be opening yourself to new ideas, new ways of doing things, exploring new opportunities, new relationships, building relationships.
So being coachable,
teachable, trainable, very important. And also just getting out there and not expecting every interaction to bring you something. You should. I like to ask, how can I help you? How can I serve you? So in the things that I do, sometimes, people say, well, what value did that bring? I said, I don't know. We don't know what's going to happen now, 10 years from now. I mean, there are actions that we took in 2013 that is still just now coming to fruition in our business. And you've got to be willing to put in the time. And so not everything, there's some things that you need immediate results from, but also when you're thinking longer term, it's not just a transaction. You're building a relationship, because you're thinking, okay, this relationship may not feed me today, but it could feed me.
But you never know, being transparent and people finding out that, you're genuine what you do, becoming that interesting character where people like what you do. And then later on, that same person that you looked at and didn't require anything in return might talk to someone else that could use your services. That's and suddenly, because you built that relationship, you get that call, hey, Jerrold, hey, Grant, hey, so-and-so, I got a friend that can use your service.
Exactly. And that's why I really encourage people to get out and create relationships. Get in a space where it can happen. Networking, it's very important. But if you're taking the view of, how can I serve you? What is it that I can do to help you today? What is it that you're looking for? Because it might just be referring someone. And those are things that help build trust and help and show that you're genuine. You're not just thinking about yourself. So I run across someone who may want to advertise their business. So I can pick up the phone and I can say, hey, give Grant a call, or give Trish a call, or, it's things like that. How do I, meeting Jordan, finding out what Jordan's interests are. And maybe I come across someone, you maybe need to talk to Jordan.
And it's funny you say that, because you said networking, and instantly I got a thought in my head about networking events. And I've seen Jerrold at networking events, and the typical thing that happens at networking events is you go to shake somebody's hand, and by the time you get your hand out, you have a business card in your hand, and they think they're doing a good thing, but they're just ramming you with what they do. I watch Jerrold, and what he does is he turns around and he's like, so tell me what you do. Never have I ever seen Jerrold pass a card out unless the person asked for it, because he's more interested in you than what you can do for him.
And so I just think those things are fundamental and important, and it takes time. And again, understanding who you are is going to help you in that process.
So we ran out of time, but we're leaving it with a hook, because we kind of got into some really good things, and we can go another hour easily talking about this. But guys, if you like what you heard, first, make sure that you comment, subscribe, and share. It helps us out in rankings, and we really do appreciate it. It lets us know that we are giving you the right information. Secondly, if you want to hear more of what Jerrold has to say about relationships, he is going to be part of the panel at the upcoming TC Business Social, which is an event that our corporation puts on. And he is actually going to be talking about business transparency, building relationships in business, and integrity in business. All big things that Jerrold is amazing at. He specializes in. So guys, for more information on that, you can check out tcbsocial.com. Check it out on Facebook as well. And any final thoughts?
Spend more on yourself. Spend more time building you than you do anything else.
And I second that. I fully agree.
Yeah. So find a way. It just, winners find a way.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jerrold.
It's been good.
It's been fun. It went fast.
Yeah, very fast.
So guys, I hope you found value in this. Like I said, please make sure you like, subscribe, and share and comment. And make sure you keep it locked for next week. Also, we are a couple days before Christmas.
Oh, yes.
This has been keeping us warm the whole time because
yes,
it's actually cold in here.
I feel it.
You can feel the heat coming from it.
Radiating.
It's probably that those radiation is actually coming from that. For you those that are listening, we have a backdrop on the screen behind us, and it's got a fireplace and the whole thing. So it's keeping us warm mentally. But Christmas is around the corner, so I want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas. I wish all the best to you and your family. We will be having one more show before the end of the year, so make sure you keep it locked next Friday. I can't tell you who the guest is yet because it's a tie between two. So I'm trying to make it the best show, so it's going to be interesting. So make sure you keep it locked. We'll put an announcement out. Until then, Merry Christmas, be safe, and keep hustling. We'll see you next week.